I'll call the special meeting of the North Smithfield School Committee meeting of May 27, 2020 to order. Clerk, please call the roll. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you, Jim.
Oh.
I just can't hear Adam.
Please call the roll.
Sorry, I lost everyone for a second there. Okay. Jim Lombardi, Chair
Present.
Lombardi, sorry.
Present.
Mrs. Terrest.
Here.
Mr. Connell.
Here.
And Mrs. Johannes is not present. Mr. Jones.
Present.
Mrs. Mayo.
Here.
And Mrs. Vada.
And for the record, Mrs. Johannes said that she was unable to make tonight's meeting in advance. Let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you everyone for coming to this special meeting tonight. Is there any public comment or community comment? Does anyone have anything to say on public comment or community comment? Hearing none, let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone want anything taken off of the consent agenda? Hearing none, I will. I just have. If you could, somebody could just explain the purchase of software. Just to explain what it is.
Claire, would you like to explain the Naviance? Oh, I don't. I'm sorry, Claire, would you like to explain what Naviance is?
Which one?
Naviance?
Is that the high school software for
the ILP software?
Yeah, ILP. I'm
Correct.
sorry. Yeah. I didn't call it Naviance. So Naviance is the new software that the state has told us we basically have to use the software, and it's for career planning. It's for guidance counselors to work with students in career paths. Tim, you probably have more information or better.
That's sufficient. But if you want to tell us about it, that's fine.
It's basically state mandated that we have to have a software program that manages the individual learning plans. So we had to pick through, I think there are 6 different choices or something like that, and Naviance is the one that we picked.
Okay, great.
So we've had it for 1 year, and we're looking at extending the contract.
And we partnered with a couple of neighboring districts around this choice, so we can share training and resources around it.
And we share it with the middle school as well.
Great, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? I'll entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Mayo, yeah.
Do you have that, Fatima?
Yes, I do.
Great. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to the high school graduation plan, Superintendent.
Actually, I will defer that to Mr. McGee. He can fill you in on what the current plans are in today's meeting with the North Smithfield Police and Fire Departments.
Right. So we are planning on doing a drive-in style graduation this year because of the pandemic. The way that it's going to work is that we're going to have cars parked out onto the baseball field and onto the lower, what I call the Pumpkin Fest field, both. And we're going to locate a 40-foot screen, which was donated to us by Stanley Zuba. He is donating the rental fee for that. So it's going to be a 40-foot blow-up screen located pretty much where the scoreboard is for the turf field, but facing the school. So It's a little bit below the hill, but everyone should be able to see it from there. All the audio is going to be broadcast via an FM transmitter, so you'll be sitting in your car just like you're at the drive-in, listening to everything on your radio. And we're going to simulcast on a YouTube-like station to a Vimeo, so people will be able to watch the ceremony from home live. The question that we have right now, I had the police checking, make sure everything was okay. We have the proper amount of people coming to make sure that it's a smooth operation. We've got some people volunteered to come in and park the cars. We're going to have the field striped so that there's rows and they're all kind of in a row. So that all is in pretty good shape. We're set to go on 2 different formats. We're set to go pre-recorded media, and we're going to be doing some live speeches. The live speeches will be the class president, the class advisor, the valedictorian, salutatorian, and myself. And then there'll be some sprinkles of good wishes from people videotaped prior to that. In many ways, I think it's going to be a better graduation, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to have live speeches, and then this year will be just a single platform where there's only one speaker because of the social distancing and so forth. So when one person exits the fairly small stage, we're going to have to wipe it down and so forth. And when that happens, we're going to switch to a pre-recorded video. Keep in mind, the kids usually have videos of themselves and so forth during their class supper, and they show those. They didn't have that this year, right? So what we did is we kind of broke it down into like 5 minute snippets and so forth, and we're going to sprinkle them in there. Regina McAdam and Kevin Pluff did an excellent job. They took recordings of the chorus and the band all individually, just on like we're meeting right now. They compiled it all together, and they made it so they're all singing together, and then they recorded it. So we're going to be showing, instead of the band being right there, it's going to be the pre-recorded band there. It's all the same students. It's just it was done a little bit earlier. So in many ways, I'm kind of impressed with the technology and everything that's going on there. The main thing we're looking at right now is the ability. Do we want the kids to actually get out of their cars and proceed across the stage? That was the main thing. When I met with the kids about, it's almost 2 months ago now, they asked me for 3 things. They asked that the graduation be conducted on the same day. They didn't want to wait until later in the summer because a lot of people are going into the military and that type of thing. They asked me if we could do it at our school if it was possible. And the last thing they wanted to do was be able to walk across the stage. Now, as you probably know, that hasn't been a very popular option. So most schools in the area right now are doing a virtual graduation. They're just sitting at home and watching this pre-recorded montage that they put together. We're going to be doing both. We're going to be having live speeches. We're going to be having multimedia sprinkled in there. And then the last thing is, do we walk across the stage or not? Now, we intentionally waited till the last minute because, as you know, things are relaxing now, right? It's getting a little bit more relaxed. It seems appropriate to me. I mean, if you can go to a store now and as long as you're 6 feet apart, you wear a mask and that type of thing, that's kind of what the norm is right now. So I guess what I'm looking for is some kind of assurance that that's what we should be doing. I know they say that the 6 feet is the social distancing. In my mind, I'm thinking 20 feet. I'll keep them 20 feet apart. They'll be wearing masks and so forth. The initial guidance said that they didn't want them leaving the car. Then someone called the governor on that last week, and she thought it was not a big deal if you were out and so, but she kind of got herself in a little bit of a pickle when she said that. So
that was, I'm sorry, Tim, but that was Jim Hummel citing North Smithfield schools as far as our plans. That's called out to the governor.
So what she did in the end, though, is she came back the following meeting and she said she wasn't going down the rabbit hole of telling each district what they should and shouldn't do. she'll leave it up to the superintendent of the districts to decide the best way to move forward with.
Well, it basically comes down to the RIDE is not going to change its guidance that if you do have a drive-in ceremony, you're not supposed to get out of the car. However, the governor did leave room for basically common sense and what fits for the district. And one of the things that we've always held is that North Smithfield High School is a small graduating class. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we feel we can pull off more so than if we had a graduating class of 200, 300, 400, 500 students. And so, one of the reasons I asked Tim to be here and asked this to be on the school committee is that we did check with the interlocal trust. The trust, our insurers, do not cover anything to do with infectious diseases or communicable diseases. So we have no insurance if somebody gets sick and it's traced back to our ceremony if we allowed students out of the car. However, on the flip side, and the Department of Ed truly did stress the liability in doing a graduation like this. However, we did consult with our attorney who gave us a number of things to consider, which honestly we had already been considering. Number one, we will be issuing a whole harmless waiver that students and families need to fill out prior. And the other thing is that, and make it very clear that there are certain protocols that are going to be in place. If we allow students out of the car, it's only the student, not the families. There can be no contact between anybody. We can allow this, we would allow the students out, and as Tim said, in small groups. Now, phase one reopening in Rhode Island increases the gathering size to 15. That's 15 for a social gathering. And granted, yes, we're going to have a couple hundred people out on the field. We did talk with the police and the fire department, and they're comfortable with 15 or 20 students coming out of the car at a time in an orderly fashion with 20 feet separated, lining up to walk to the stage with their diplomas. And again, we're going to exceed social distancing regulations in doing this. The other thing, Tim, and I don't know if this has been fully done. One of the big concerns that the Department of Health had was the handing out of diplomas to students. And again, there was a disconnect in this because we can go through a Dunkin' drive-through or McDonald's and somebody can hand us a bag of food, but according to the regulations of the guidance, we can't hand a diploma to anybody. So one of the things that Tim was looking at doing is issuing the students their diplomas ahead of time. So I don't know if the night of the graduation, they will be handed a diploma or they're going to arrive with the diploma in their hands already.
Yeah, as a backup plan, just so you know, tomorrow we are going to be taking pictures of the graduates with their caps and gowns. We're going to give them their diploma cover at that time, so they'll have their diploma cover with them for the picture. My thought was keep the diploma cover with you, and then the night of graduation, if we decide that they are able to walk, they just take the diploma cover with them. They really just want to walk across the stage. That's right. They've missed everything, right?
And we're arranging to have that walk live stream and to have a photographer on hand to take the picture of the student walking the stage holding the diploma.
I personally thought it would be kind of comical if I had a 50-foot pole of some kind and hand it over to them, but they don't even want to allow that. So if we give them the diploma ahead of time, like if we give it to them tomorrow for the picture, they'll have it with them. So Friday night when they show up, they'll get out of the car with their diploma cover with them. will call their name. The plan is that on the big screen, there'll be their portrait, their senior portrait, or their with their cap and gown on. And then the split screen will be them actually walking up. So we'll have two things going on at the same time. It's going to be quite a show if it really works. I told everybody this is going to be one of the best graduations we've ever had, or I'm going to be fired. And I'm not sure until Saturday which one it will be. But
So, Superintendent, I guess committee, I have a few comments and questions, but if anybody else wants to go first. Well, I mean, let me just start by saying, and I have said this and will continue to say this, and I'm sure that the full committee is with me on this. I want to say I'm proud of all the students who excelled during these difficult times. I understand that it was not fair, but they will be better for it. And I wish all the seniors good luck and look forward to seeing them again. So I don't know what else to say other than I'm very proud of all of the students, especially the seniors. Let me just say, so Superintendent, you will notify the students with a waiver and notify them as well that it's voluntary to come, correct?
Because we will be live streaming as well. And there will be the typical disclaimers that if you or anyone in your family is exhibiting any types of symptoms, please don't attend, watch it from the live stream, similar to the families. Likewise, Tim has put in very specific guidelines around the size of the cars, the number of people who can be in them, all the rules and the regulations that we want everybody to adhere to without waiver, all the way from even having staff on hand with we will have a couple of porta-johns because obviously somebody will have to go to the bathroom, but we will be sterilizing those porta-johns all night long. We will be sterilizing the podium. We will have police and fire and people to be sure that everybody is adhering to all social distance protocols.
And let me just confirm that you are following all of the Department of Health regulations and all known recommendations from the CDC and all that other stuff. Is that correct?
Correct. I'm sorry, but just to be clear, the only point that we're looking to waive from any guidelines is the RIDE published guidelines in which nobody can get out of their car during a drive-in type of graduation. Again, however, the governor did say superintendents are able to exercise common sense as far as the guidelines.
But no two students will be within, let's say, 10 feet.
Correct.
At any time. Is that correct?
Correct.
I know that you, Principal McGee, you mentioned that they'll be wearing masks. When they go across the stage, I assume they'll be taking them off, I hope.
Yeah, so that was the thing that came up on the news the other day. When they get to the stage, at that point they'll be by themselves anyway, and they'll be probably 30 feet from the nearest person. So at that point, I see no reason where they couldn't take their mask off. We're going to have a photographer on hand to take a picture of them so that nobody else has to come out of their cars and take pictures. And then we're going to put all those files on a common website, and they'll be able to download those pictures.
Right, and I just want to, I guess, to the administration, just make a quick statement here. Obviously we want everybody to have a good time, but you must strictly enforce safety protocol. You must let the students know that in advance. And although I hope this never happens, we must notify the seniors and attendees that if we don't follow protocol, we must stop the graduation. I don't know if the rest of the committee agrees with that, but you cannot, once we are aware that somebody's in danger of COVID, I think that we then have a problem. And that's maybe where the liability will come in from. So I don't know what the rest of the committee believes on that, but I think that we have to be very, very strict. You know, we are one of the few communities that are going out there and do this. And in this situation, we have to ask the seniors to cooperate here and take this very seriously.
As well as their families.
Correct.
The fire department will have a EMT on hand, and our school nurse will be on hand as well as part of the rest of the fire and the police contingent.
Okay, I have a question if I can. Oh, sorry.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to do right. Okay, just very quickly, I was wondering, with the kids, the students who are going to be walking across, will we have to, or will we giving them we'll be asking them the usual, you know, the litany of questions which are asked of people when they enter into public buildings? Will we have to go through that list, or are we planning to go through that list of questions with each student?
Our solicitor did send that actual list you were talking about, the checklist that everybody will have to take a look at and sign off on or agree to before they're allowed entry.
So they'll have to do it like, just as a practical matter, are we going to be collecting those right at the entranceway as the cars are coming in, or how are we going to, because it's going to be current. I mean, I'm not saying I support this. I support trying to do this. Are we going to collect them as they're coming in? You know, like onto the field? Are we going to collect, because they have to be kind of current with when they're coming on, right?
They do. So Mr. McGee will be handing out the forms tomorrow. Now, I don't know if he has thought about when he's having them signed and collected, or.
Yes. So I think what he's thinking is it has to be that day, right? Because that's the day. So because when they enter the field, they can only come through the lower gate or the upper. They have to come through the gate anyway. So I'll be giving them a ticket to come in, and that would be a good idea. As they come in, I could get that form from them as well. I'll put that, because on Thursdays, I usually send out a newsletter. I'll put that in the newsletter for tomorrow, that, you know, seniors should bring that form with them when they come to graduation. They need the ticket and that form with them when they come in.
Because I think from a liability standpoint, and I'm not sure, but I think that we probably have to be asking them as they come on, right that day as they're coming in. And I do want to go on record and say I support both our principal and our superintendent in doing this. I think it's the right thing to do. But as our chairperson said, we just have to be, we do have to be safe. But I think part of being safe is having those protocols. If our protocols are good, we've done all we can do.
Great.
You had mentioned that the school nurse would be there. Are we planning to take temperatures of the students who go across the stage, or exactly what would her role be?
Yeah, I honestly, I didn't think that. I didn't think of having their temperatures taken beforehand. I didn't think.
I was just wondering, only because you mentioned she would be there.
Yeah, well, she'll be there, but they're going to be entering from two different gates, and they're going to be coming in. It's going to be kind of a short amount of time to get them in there. I'm trying to get them in and out fairly quickly so that they don't have to use the bathrooms as often. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So my vision was to kind of get them in there. The only people leaving the car are the students. Everybody else stays in the car the whole time, and they'll be so far apart. Probably have them in groups and just letter them, the A group, the B group, the C group, probably groups of 15 or something like that. So it's going to take us a little bit longer to get them through the procession, and then they'll go right back to their car. But I hadn't planned on having temperatures taken.
It's actually a good suggestion. Why don't we check with the nurse and to check on the viability of that. I also want to review that checklist. I don't know if, I can't recall offhand if a temperature is part of that checklist. So that's a good suggestion. We'll look into that.
Well, it sounds to me like you've covered a lot of bases with this. Obviously, a lot of thinking has gone into it. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that everything goes well.
Well, but then you come along and you come up with an entirely new idea and throw it all totally into into a loop. You know, it's.
I'm sorry. What can I say?
Well, I have to go through the checklist is extensive. That's well, not a problem. It's an issue. I mean, it's an awful lot of stuff there. I mean, who knows where they'll be come June 5th? But right now, there's like 15 questions they ask. You know.
Yeah.
Right. They could have that filled out right before they came in, though, and then the only piece we wouldn't have would be the temperature check, right? So if to sound each gate doing that to the students as they came through. And I'm sure if I asked Nurse Ethia to do it, she would be willing to do that, but she can only cover one gate, so I'd have to find another.
I think it'd be hard. That's 120 temperatures to take in a short time. I mean,
you need the gun, right? I would assume you need the gun and point it on their head or something.
You'd also need to sanitize it.
I wasn't necessarily suggesting it. I was just wondering. I was just asking the question.
Well, is it possible for the checklist, Principal McGee, on that checklist form, could there be a reminder or some language that says, if your temperature is in excess of normal rates and you define the normal rate ranges, the day of graduation, please don't attend, something like that?
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure that's on the guidance document that's going to go out beforehand.
Okay.
It's just verifying that that's what it is. Like we can take their word for it, but I don't know. It's just enough.
I mean, when they ask you the questions, it's self-verifying anyway. I mean, it is self-verifying. I don't know any state places that take your temperature. I'm not saying there might be some, but I don't know of any offhand.
But go to the extreme. Somebody has COVID, somebody there has COVID, which probably is going to happen. If everybody's outside 10 feet away from each other, I don't think you can, I mean, I from what I read is I don't think that it would be transmittable anyway. Not saying that we should invite them. I'm just saying worst case scenario, somebody has it, doesn't know it, and goes through the ceremony.
Here's the screening tool. I just, all right, so this is the standard tool that's being used. Name is there, and have you had any of these symptoms in the past 3 days? And also yes or no on these risk factors.
So we could have it so that they fill that out beforehand. When they show up at the gate, they would present that filled out with their ticket, admittance ticket. I think that should be enough, I think.
And if anybody is flagging any of these for yeses, that's where our nurse would have to do a review.
Does anyone else want to speak on this matter? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the graduation plan, including walking across the straight stage as identified in this meeting with all of the safety protocols in place.
I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. Fatima, you mind roll calling that?
Sure. Chair Lombardi,
Yes.
Mrs. Charest,
Yes.
Mr. Cannell,
Yes.
yes. Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Mayo,
Yes.
Mrs. Vada. Okay.
Peg, you hear Peg?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you and great job, Superintendent, Principal McGee. And I assume Mr. Stanley, I haven't heard from him, but I'm assuming that he's a big part of this as well. I know on my Facebook, I did congratulate him as well.
It's a big team effort. There's
sure.
the entire technology team. Mr. St. Jean's contributing his expertise as well. There's a lot of moving pieces to this one.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Let's move on to new business. Again, this is the worst part of the meeting of the year is the non-renewal termination notices for 2021. Superintendent?
So we've sliced and diced and we've tried to figure out the best way to handle this, but we have absolutely no idea what the budget is going to be. Actually, we had requested from the governor's office to push back the June 1st deadline for layoffs into July 1st, into August 1st, into any time where all of us had a sense of where our budgets were going to be. And there was widespread support for delaying the layoffs because we all know how demoralizing it is. And when you don't know your budget, you have to cast the net far wider than you ever would have considered. And it's just an awful feeling for the people at the receiving end of a layoff notice. So there was quite a bit of traction in the state to push it off, except one of the unions disagreed with it. It wasn't any that are representing any of our folks. It was unions that represent other parts of the state and other districts. Absolutely no, won't do. So there wasn't the will to do an executive order to override any of this. So now we're stuck with this June 1st deadline. So in our case, we try to keep it as minimal as possible. And we are in a very real sense of the word, just rolling the dice and hoping that what comes back from the town and what comes back from the state isn't so devastating that we can't function, that we didn't go far enough. But here's the issue. I've said that we were going into the FY21 budget. We weren't asking for any new staff, nor were we intending to lay off any staff. I felt in every way, shape, and form, we were the right sized for the mission with the personnel that we have. You know, we were being fiscally responsible and doing our best to meet the kids' needs. Now, could we add more in social services? Could we use another psychologist or social worker? Absolutely. But we didn't feel this was the time to ask for any new positions. We just wanted to hold with what we had. And then COVID came, the world changed, and we don't know what our budget is from the town. We definitely don't know what our budget is from the state. And as I said, I mean, my concern is that the state is coming up to almost $900 million in a revenue shortfall. That is going to have an impact on state aid to education. So it is my hope that the General Assembly will resume. It's my hope that the CARES Act did send money to the state for COVID-related expenses. I don't know how much of that will be used to prop up state aid to education. My hope is that something equitable comes out and that we're able to recall everybody on this list back. Outside of that, it's all of us, our hands are tied, every single district in the state. We just don't know what the budget is going to be. Hence, we have to do some layoffs. Hence, we have to identify sweeping changes, sweeping cuts. And look, and just to balance this, we don't know what reopening is going to look like in the fall. We don't know to what extent we're going to have to redesign our schools if we have to. We don't know what extent this effect will be on transportation. You know, one of the things that have been floated right now as far as busing is to students need to sit one per seat every other seat. There aren't physically enough buses or money to afford buses to enable us to function with that kind of ridership. So again, We don't know this year's budget. We don't know next year's budget, and we don't know what the state of education and the costs are going to be. So unfortunately, I had to recommend a wider range of layoffs than any of us were comfortable doing.
Anybody have any questions? Superintendent, for the record, I will call a special meeting as soon as you can determine who can come back. We don't want any of our employees to wait one extra day to be recalled as soon as we know when we can recall. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know this is a tough position for you. It kills morale. It bothers me a lot, but we have to protect the district at this point. So thank you very much for doing that. Does anybody have any comments?
What can we say beyond what, has already been said? I certainly understand why we have to do it, especially this year, but it hurts so much to be impacting the lives of these dedicated professionals and leaving them in limbo, wondering what's going to happen. But as important as that, it also impacts our students and the forward momentum of our school system as well as its success. And it's discouraging and depressing. And I'm really sorry to everyone who's impacted by this.
This is always the worst vote of the
Oh, it's
year,
awful.
as Chairman Lombardi said before, and it's almost doubly so this year because we see these names on this list, and these are teachers, professionals who've been working so hard for the students with COVID and everything going on. They've been going above and beyond. So, to second what Chairman Lombardi said, yes, as soon as and we can recall these folks, please, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we'll drop it. Not to speak for the whole committee, but I imagine everyone feels the same. Whatever we can do to bring our employees back.
Thank you.
Just want to comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to support the non-renewal termination notices as presented by the superintendent.
Make that motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it. Any further business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I second.
No. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you all for coming on to the meeting tonight.